McLaren's Hungarian Grand Prix victory triggered a massive question. Was Lando Norris simply untouchable, or did the win expose something serious enough for the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile and Max Verstappen to react? Because the claim sounds explosive. McLaren, too fast. Norris, winning through chaos. Verstappen, taking action. And the governing body, supposedly stepping in. But here is the detail that changes everything. The attached source does not confirm any official action from the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile. It does not include a verified statement from Verstappen. It does not identify a technical breach, a protest, a penalty, or even the specific data behind the accusation. So the real mystery is not only why McLaren looked so strong. It is how a story this serious began spreading before the evidence appeared. And by the end, the difference between a dominant Formula One performance and a genuine regulatory problem will be impossible to ignore. Subscribe to the channel. To understand why this story became so powerful, we need to separate three very different things. A fast McLaren, a chaotic race, and a confirmed response from Max Verstappen or the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile. The first two can create suspicion. The third requires evidence. And right now, the attached source does not provide that evidence. There is no verified statement from Verstappen demanding action. There is no official document confirming that the governing body opened a specific investigation. There is no identified component, no failed test, and no regulation that McLaren has been shown to violate. That does not make the questions disappear. It makes the questions more important. Because when a team suddenly looks stronger than expected, Formula One does not respond with trust. It responds with analysis. Every rival begins looking for the reason. Not because speed is illegal. Because unexplained speed is dangerous. A team can accept losing because of strategy. It can accept losing because of a driver mistake. It can even accept losing because a circuit suited another car. But when one rival appears fast in several areas at once, the pressure changes. The engineers stop asking what happened. They start asking what they missed. That is where McLaren's performance becomes significant. A Formula One car does not become dominant through one dramatic feature alone. It is usually several smaller strengths working together. Better balance through the corners. More stable braking. Stronger tire control. Cleaner traction when the driver accelerates. A setup that allows confidence instead of hesitation. Each advantage may be tiny. But Formula One is decided by tiny advantages. Imagine two runners moving at almost the same speed. One wastes a little energy on every step. The other does not. For the first few seconds, the difference is almost invisible. After enough distance, the gap becomes impossible to ignore. That is how a car can begin a race looking competitive, then slowly become untouchable. Not because it suddenly gains speed. Because everyone else begins losing it. And Hungary can expose that difference brutally. The circuit demands constant direction changes. The tires rarely get a true rest. One balance problem can follow the driver through several corners. One slide can raise tire temperature. That extra temperature reduces grip. The loss of grip creates another slide. Then the problem feeds itself. A well-balanced car can avoid that cycle. And if McLaren managed that better than its rivals, Norris would not need one extraordinary advantage. He would only need to make fewer compromises. That sounds simple. It is not. Because every Formula One setup is a trade. More grip in one corner can create weakness somewhere else. More stability under braking can make the car slower to rotate. More protection for the tires can reduce performance on a single qualifying lap. The best package is not the one that wins every technical category. It is the one that loses the least across the entire lap. And this is where rival attention becomes inevitable. If McLaren found a balance that worked through different phases of the race, other teams would need to understand whether that strength came from setup, aerodynamics, mechanical grip, tire behavior, or the driver. Those are very different answers. A setup can be copied quickly. An aerodynamic concept may take months to understand. A driver advantage cannot be copied at all. And a legal technical innovation may force every rival to redesign its own car. That is the possibility that creates real fear. Not that McLaren has broken a rule. That McLaren may have understood the rules better. Formula One has always lived in the narrow space between what is forbidden and what has not yet been imagined. The regulations define the limits. The engineers search for freedom inside those limits. Then one team finds something. The others notice the performance. Questions begin. Officials may examine the design. Rivals may ask for clarification. And the public sees the word action, even when no punishment has been announced. That difference matters. Action can mean many things. It can mean a routine inspection. It can mean officials asking for additional information. It can mean a technical discussion between teams and the governing body. It can mean a new test for everyone. Or it can mean absolutely nothing beyond the normal checks that happen throughout a race weekend. Without a confirmed statement, those situations cannot be treated as the same. But they often are. One photograph appears from the garage. One report mentions scrutiny. One rival driver answers a broad question. Then separate details are connected into one dramatic story. McLaren is too fast. Verstappen is angry. The governing body is stepping in. The win is under suspicion. It sounds complete. But a complete story is not automatically a proven story. And here is what most people miss. Verstappen would not need to accuse McLaren directly for his reaction to become part of the controversy. A comment about performance. A question about tire behavior. A remark about the gap. Any of those could be removed from its original context and presented as action. But concern is not a protest. Frustration is not evidence. And a rival driver recognizing another team's speed does not prove that anything illegal happened. That distinction protects the truth. It also protects the driver. Because Formula One competitors speak immediately after intense races. They are tired. They are frustrated. They are still processing strategy, contact, missed opportunities, and the behavior of the car. A single sentence can reflect emotion rather than a formal technical position. The real technical challenge would come from the team's engineers. They would compare data, study video, examine how the McLaren changes direction, look for movement in the bodywork, analyze acceleration, braking, and tire degradation. Then, if they believed a rule had been broken, they would need something specific. Not McLaren looked too fast. Not Norris controlled the race too easily. A specific concern tied to a specific regulation. That is the line between rivalry and investigation. And the attached source does not identify such a concern. So why does the accusation feel believable? Because speed changes perception. When a car struggles, unusual behavior looks like a weakness. When the same car wins, unusual behavior looks like a secret. The result changes how every detail is interpreted. A flexible-looking part becomes suspicious. Strong tire life becomes suspicious. A stable car becomes suspicious. Even clean strategy can become suspicious if the final advantage feels too large. But dominance is not evidence of cheating. Sometimes, it is evidence that several ordinary decisions were executed better than everyone expected. The upgrade worked. The setup matched the circuit. The driver trusted the car. The strategy protected track position. The team reacted correctly under pressure. None of those things is dramatic on its own. Together, they can decide a Grand Prix. And that may be the first real explanation behind the chaos surrounding Norris's win. Not one hidden device. Not one secret instruction. A complete operation functioning with fewer mistakes. But that explanation creates an even more difficult problem for Verstappen and every other rival. A rule breach can be challenged. A penalty can remove points. An illegal component can be banned. But a stronger team operation cannot be protested away. It has to be beaten. And that takes time. The car must improve. The setup process must improve. The strategy must become sharper. The driver must extract more from every opportunity. That is why the question, is McLaren too fast, may be hiding the wrong fear. The real fear is not that McLaren produced one exceptional weekend. It is that Hungary may have revealed a performance level that can survive beyond Hungary. One circuit can flatter a car. One race can become chaotic. One strategy can fall perfectly into place. But repeated pace under different conditions is something else. That becomes a pattern. And once a pattern appears, the pressure on the governing body becomes louder, even when the rules have not been broken. Rivals ask questions. Fans demand explanations. Every new part receives attention. Every result becomes evidence for one side or the other. If McLaren wins again, people will say the advantage is growing. If McLaren slows down, people will claim outside pressure changed the car. That is the trap. Almost any result can be forced into the story. Which is why the next piece matters more than all the speculation combined. Not what Verstappen may have felt. Not how dominant McLaren appeared. What, exactly, the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile was asked to examine. Because until that technical target is identified, the word action tells us far less than the headline suggests. And the answer may reveal something much bigger. Either McLaren has a weakness that rivals believe can be challenged. Or McLaren has a legal advantage that the rest of the grid still does not understand. And this is where the entire story reaches its most important turning point. Because if the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile really had a concern, the next question would not be whether McLaren looked fast. It would be what kind of action was actually taken. That sounds obvious, but the difference is enormous. A routine inspection is normal. A technical clarification is more serious. A formal protest is something else entirely. And an official finding of illegality would be the only step capable of turning suspicion into fact. The attached source does not confirm which, if any, of those steps occurred. So every dramatic claim still depends on one missing detail: the exact action. Without that, the story can be shaped in almost any direction. A car can be inspected after a race, and people may call it an investigation. A rival can ask a technical question, and people may call it a complaint. A driver can express frustration, and people may call it a protest. Those words sound similar when they are placed inside a headline. Inside Formula One, they mean very different things. And this is where McLaren's rivals would need to be precise. If they believed the car was gaining performance from a flexible component, they would need to identify that component. If they believed the car was protecting its tires in an unusual way, they would need evidence that linked the behavior to a technical system. If they believed a regulation was being interpreted too aggressively, they would need to show where that interpretation crossed the limit. Speed alone would not be enough. A win would not be enough. Even dominance would not be enough. Because Formula One has seen teams produce extraordinary advantages without breaking the rules. Sometimes the advantage comes from one major concept. Sometimes it comes from thousands of tiny decisions. The shape of the bodywork. The way the floor controls airflow. The suspension setup. The cooling choices. The way the driver uses the tires. The timing of the pit stops. The communication between the garage and the cockpit. None of those things looks dramatic by itself. But when they work together, the car begins to look almost unfair. That word matters. Unfair is not the same as illegal. A rival can feel powerless against a better package. A driver can feel that another car has too much grip, too much stability, or too much control. But Formula One does not regulate frustration. It regulates measurable behavior. And the greatest danger for McLaren may be that public pressure begins moving faster than those measurements. Once enough people believe a car is too fast, every detail becomes suspicious. If the rear wing moves, people focus on the movement. If the tires last longer, people focus on temperature control. If the car remains stable through a difficult corner, people focus on the floor. The conclusion comes first. The explanation is forced to follow. But technical truth works in the opposite direction. First, the evidence. Then, the conclusion. That order is not exciting. It is essential. Because a modern Formula One car is designed to move. Wings flex under load. Tires deform. Suspension compresses. The floor changes its distance from the track. The real question is not whether movement exists. The real question is whether that movement remains within the regulations and within the official testing limits. Think of a bridge moving slightly in strong wind. Movement does not automatically mean the bridge is unsafe. It may have been designed to move. The danger begins when the movement exceeds what the structure was built to handle. Formula One rules work in a similar way. The car does not need to remain completely rigid. It needs to behave within defined limits. And those limits are often tested under controlled conditions. That creates the next layer of the controversy. A rival team may believe the official test does not capture what the part does at full racing speed. The component may pass while the car is stationary. Then, under enormous aerodynamic load, it may move differently. That does not prove a violation. It creates a question about whether the test is strong enough. And that question can lead to action without leading to punishment. Officials may increase the test load. They may add cameras. They may measure movement in a different way. They may request additional information from the team. They may issue new guidance for every competitor. None of those possibilities is confirmed by the attached source. But they explain why the word action can sound far more dramatic than the reality.